Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit. I am Krishanu, your host. I hope you had started a good weekend and it will end well. And to help you end the week well, we have brought a particular subject today. The subject of discussion is from information to transformation. Now, if we look at these two words, information and transformation, apart from the mation that is both there in both the words, there are a lot of differences, and those differences are not often what the dictionary will tell you. There is more to it. In fact, there is a significant portion of knowledge involved in these two words or this transformation that we are talking about, which can have a decisive turn in your lives. Want to know more about it? Well, our guests, Professor Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor, thank you both for joining. We'll explain why this can make a decisive, very important difference to your life. What is information? What is transformation? And how it is related to quantum science. We'll know all about that. And over to you, Professor Goswami. The subject is from information to transformation.
Thank you, Krishanu. Hello, everyone. Well, actually, information is what you mainly are addicted to. You being the poor, victimized people of the generation called Z. And to some extent, even the millennials suffer from this disease. It's a disease. It's a disease, but you are so innocently succumb to it. It's very alluring. Everybody uses it, of course, today. Social media is information. Newspapers are information. And this information is given to you not even in a truthful way, because values are all mixed up. So really, compared to my childhood, people who grow up today really have a struggle in finding out what life is about. But be it as it may, we are here to clarify some of the issues and hope this helps. If you're addicted to information, one show is not going to change you. But of course, okay, so what is information? I said what you get from social media, newspapers is all information. That is true. That is true. In what sense? They don't allow you to think. They give you opinions which seem like that's it. Only thing is if you belong to their tent or not. There are two tents. One tent is the tent of scientific materialism. People basically are also called liberals. They hold the view that maybe values are just pretend values, spiritual values don't exist. We just pretend them in order to uphold some civilized veneer. The other view fundamentally professes religious values, but nobody follows them. Never they have followed them. Religions never followed them, and the leaders, that is. And today also, in the olden days, ordinary people tried to follow them, and society had periods of civilization, but more often than not, they also could not follow them deep enough in order to make a dent in the downgrading of civilization. Now, today we have reached some kind of an impasse. This is a crisis of civilization. When we hear democracy is in danger, what we are really talking about, the civilized institution that is democracy as an ideal. That ideal has never been satisfied, however much the groups try to tell you otherwise. And now it is just at its worst so bad that everybody is noticing it, so we talk about it. But we don't do anything about it because we can't. The thing is that this information culture is very useful for elites. elites give their opinions about things, and then they sell it to you, but they give it as information and make you in such a way by sociocultural pressure that all you want are one-liners, and all it has to do is to grab you. So these elites know what your weaknesses are. They know that you live in the base level human condition or have still habits that cater to the base level human condition, namely me-centeredness and negative emotions and weakness about pleasure, excessive pleasure. They know your habits, though they cater to them. One side sells pleasure, the other side sells negative emotions, hatred, and exploit you. Exploit you for believing and presenting you a technology that, of course, without that, they couldn't do this. So the technology constantly says, well, this is the way to go. So with no fault of your own, your attention span has come to 1.5 seconds. If anything is more than that, I always get challenged because, even I have to present things to you because I try to point out these things and try to see if you like the idea of changing. So I have to present to you, but I have to present to you with an ad, which is, 10 seconds, 15 seconds like that. Otherwise, you won't listen to it. You won't have the patience to hear it. Now, here, of course, we talk for about half an hour, and this is an experiment to see if you can handle it. Of course, you go in and out. Let's say it. You just have to realize it and laugh about it. We are all victims of the information culture. We from this side, you from that side. Makes no difference. Cell phone, social media, these things have changed our life towards a meaningfulness to information. Now, what we want to talk about is that, look, the brain, to some extent, is a computer. Information can be processed as symbols. That's its virtue. It's computable. So computers can handle it. Computers can give wise comments even on the information based on other information. But what you're doing is you are always processing meaning given to you by other people. They are manipulating you, putting you in this tent or that tent, depending on which way your tendencies are. Is there a preferable way that you can find yourself? You can find yourself about who you want to be. Look at these values that they have rejected, both cultures. The values that love, beauty, truth, justice, their values. Even the subject that your leaders tend to monopolize, money and power, they are part of human values. Abundance and power, they too has a transpersonal aspect. And we prefer democracy. Why? Because democracy is a way that leaders can share their power with the electorate. That's the idea of democracy, and this is why we liked democracy in the past. Now it is becoming more and more meaningless because none of the leaders will want to share their power with us, the electorate. Same thing with capitalism. We started with the same idea, how to bring abundance to everybody. Capitalism did that much better than other systems like socialism or communism that tried to do the same thing, but could not, bogged down to big bureaucracy and power-hungry leaders. Same thing is happening here as well in democratic countries. Capitalism is failing for the same reason. Abundance is what you share, then it becomes transpersonal archetype. But if you use it for your personal good, then it's just boosts your me-centeredness. And who suffers? We suffer. The non-elitists. The elitists are over there, few of them, rules over the big numbers that we are, us. So the perpetuation of humanity in these two groups, the elites and us, information culture is about that. What is transformation? Transformation is to be our own person. How do I be our own person? First of all, we realize that the brain has that characteristic. It's an information processing machine. Tendencies for processing information. You have to bring the brain back to meaning processing. But look, this is a simple thing to say. But how do I process meaning? How do I get enthusiastic? How do I get motivated to process meaning? This is where we have to discover feelings, emotions, passion, energy of vitality that makes us passionate towards, no, I want meaning, I want purpose, I want satisfaction in my life. I want to be independent. I really want to be independent. I don't like to do what other people tell me to do. That spirit. That's the real individualism. Individualism is not leaders telling you to hate someone. That's not individualism. Yes, you hate other people. That's individualism in the sense that you're isolated. You don't identify yourself with a community anymore. But is that real individuality? Because everybody is living that same way. Hate never makes you into an individual. Only the purposive life, meaningful life, where these human values, which we call more formally archetypes, when they come into your life, when you pursue them passionately with your feelings, emotions, then you become gradually an individual. Information culture makes you all just that homogeneous statistical people who can be manipulated by marketing techniques. That's all we have today. Politics, economics, society, everything. Marketing can make you believe anything. Social media can make you believe anything. Instead, if you want a life of satisfaction, life of happiness, life of peace and tranquility, no chaos, life where creativity reigns, dynamics of love, satisfaction in job, profession, that becomes natural. If that is the life you want, you choose the life of transformation. Now, for details, as usual, we have our expert, Valentina Onisor. Valentina?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. And many people use the term change instead of transformation, So there is a difference, a huge difference between just to change and to transform. And let me just start with that. Because all transformation is change, but not all change is transformation. And if when change happens, you can recognize it. It's the same thing, but maybe it's smaller, color changed, or you just change furniture in a room, let's say. But transformation, if you think it's a full-scale remodeling of that house or of yourself, actually, you become authentic eventually, yeah. And actually, transformation is obviously part of, if you want, the archetypal journey of a spiritual hero. And as we promised, we'll talk about the hero journey and in the next week. So the word transformation again means to go beyond, to transform beyond form, and the form and also structure will alter fundamentally. And I love very much the Taoism tradition, and this is giving a model, the caterpillar and the butterfly. Right? So change is when the caterpillar, the worm, is just growing. But transformation, the butterfly, is totally different. So you're not really expecting that aha feeling, that we speak about in the science of creativity also. It's also reflecting the stage of transformation. So again, what is the human equivalent is our identity, what Amit just mentioned, what we identify with, because our identity is what gives us values, who we are. Yeah. So our identity is what follows, what we express when we say I am. For example, you can say I am optimistic or I'm not, or you can refer to yourself as a biological aspect, I'm short, I'm thin, or you can refer to yourself as a role that you assumed, a child of somebody, a mother, or a teacher, or so on, you know. But transformation is something dynamic and fluid, and wide, if you want, in range. So we also, obviously, it's about the choices that we make every single day, whether we make them consciously or not, because every choice is an invitation to a new experience and takes us out of the comfort zone and helps us transform in unimaginable ways. And yeah, you can say that life begins when we get out of the comfort zones. Just by challenging our identities, these roles, for example, you know, only then we can proceed in this journey, and inward and also outward, to express our potential in life. And to really live is to transform, you know, because we are always experiencing a phase on this path towards wholeness. Yeah. And I study a little bit Joseph Campbell. He wrote some books which are relevant to me, and he's describing 3 types of transformation. And if you also studied psychology, you will probably identify what happened in your life. For example, in general, people transform as a result of 3 major causes. First of all, when a trauma occurs, or second, when one experiences unexpected, powerful experiences. And the third type is consciously intended transformation. Yeah. So first case, when trauma appears, you know, crisis, an accident, or a death of a dear one, or you get the diagnosis of a cancer or whatever, you know. And obviously you cannot stay in the same place where you are. You cannot continue as usual. And that's for the people who are not willing to transform, actually, so far. And it's like a last resort, because we cannot uh, open towards this universal force. You know, the evolution needs to occur, you know, in a way or another. So if we are very, very stubborn, we may, again, so disease, remember that disease is actually messages. It's not just something that you need to get rid of. You have to see what triggered that, what lack of resonances were there. So, okay, the second case, unexpected, powerful experiences. So they are based on a surprise factor. So it's not something traumatic, but unexpected. And there are 2 types here. First of all is, again, unanticipated. So, for example, you were just doing your chores, and suddenly somebody, maybe, I don't know, your brother, you didn't see him for 40 years old, and she shows up at the door. Yeah. So it's a very unexpected but pleasant effect. Yeah. Or, for example, you got an unforeseen promotion. So it's something very powerful that occurs unexpectedly. And when you're engaged in simply ordinary activity, not expecting. Yeah. Or the second kind of such surprises are the ones that happen when we are doing an activity that is out of the norm. For example, we visit an ancient temple in India that is very special, and you read about this, you know, and you really get an unexpected experience, even if you were preparing for it a little bit. By the way, we'll have every year such spiritual trips in India, and it would be wonderful if you join us. Or, for example, if you visit your childhood place after 30 years, for example, and you are out of the country. So the outset of such one-time experience, that you anticipate it, but can be so intense, and you prepare it for its possible power. You can, but you're not really looking consciously for transformation. It's, for you, it's still just an adventure, something like that, you know, and then it occurs as a surprise. So that can also be something. And the third type, of course, is the best, you know, consciously assumed transformation with intent and all that. So it's using intentions. Remember, we spoke about intention and the power of intent, and also the power of choice. So choosing it on purpose. Yeah. And we consciously seek for an experience that will lead us to transformation. Any spiritual practice is such a choice. Doing meditations on various aspects, ultimately on the self, various practices for awakening Kundalini, working on the chakras. So, or of course, being part of various courses on transformation, university, like what we have, for example, if it's resonating with you. So if this is happening, you have been listening to this waking up call, on this part of your journey. And this call, so when it's manifesting, is like a scream in your heart. It's not possible to stay the same. So it's that passion that Amit again mentioned just before. Or maybe you just realize that your life as currently configured is not anymore fulfilling. Yeah, you're a bit maybe confused on what you want, and you're set out to find it. So there's something in you, something that is lacking there. So when we pursue transformation consciously, we listen closely to our aspirations, which are connected with your heart. So we look out of the ego and the mind. It's working on small things only. So you look out of that to some possible escapes, if you want, for scenarios that will offer us an adventure, or maybe a stillness that we need, depends where we are. And we create conditions. So this, what I mentioned, you create conditions if we practice anything spiritual, or we even stay around some great sages, or wise teachers. This is again more likely to help transform us with having such conditions in place than without. And so a practical question would be how to identify a life-changing event when you experience, and then because it's interesting that all kinds of transformational moments, smaller ones, they can be lost amongst your daily chores. So if you're not used to view your life through the lens of transformation, it's very easy to lose such experiences, because transformation doesn't happen in an instant, and many times, it feels like it's painful, but the journey of the hero is not a one-time event. We'll talk about more next time, but it's an ongoing process, and transformation takes time. And many times, it occurs so slowly that if you look at it through the day-to-day life, you don't even see it, unless you know what you're looking for, and when so if you have some specific practices, then you will know what you want, and then there are cycles of transformation. One is transformation itself, and the second is called the integrative cycle, how you digest, how you assimilate your experience, how you integrate your new and healthier self, and how to get rid of the old patterns, which is not easy, because these aspects hold feelings that we maybe have avoided or rejected for long, like anger, fear, shame, anxiety, and so on, And the innermost part of this process entails a genuine emotional alchemy that starts with an emotional surrender and the birth of a new self, And transformation means always a radical change, Not just adding something or modifying, that is just change, Transformation is a radical change. And we might not be ready for this dramatic alteration of our personality at once, obviously, because if you're unprepared, it doesn't mean that we are not good enough also, We just have to be ready like everything else in the universe, because a seed will stay dormant in the soil until good conditions will arise, When a flower starts to grow, it's not growing faster if you pull it. And it needs time. So we need preparation as well for the big challenges that are ahead of us on the journey, because initially they're not so big, really, even if they seem like, but later they will be bigger. So when a call of transformation comes, it means that you're ready and you can go. You have what you need in order to have a safe and complete journey, the journey of your life or your lives, even if you're looking through the prism of reincarnation, from one existence to another. So we need the right conditions in order to transform, for transformation to occur, and we choose every day, if we grow or we continue to have a passive and fatalistic attitude and be like a victim, So in order to be proactive, we need to identify in which areas of our life we maybe don't feel that we are fulfilling our needs. Because again, if there is dissatisfaction there, this is not accidental, it's a sign that something from there's something there that eventually they will come up, as a test or something to push you to transform, And then obviously you have to be attentive to discern between the ego's voice and the soul's voice, to know if a certain challenge or impulse will lead you to transform. It's an attitude of the ego, or thirst or adrenaline, let's say, this extreme sports. It's not about that. I'm not talking about this. This is not the courage. This is foolishness, So this is not about coming out of your comfort zone if you're just doing an extreme sport. It's having common sense, And when a wake-up call of transformation arises, then you need to know this is the call. It's not a stupid message of the ego only, So not about challenging your body in a harmful way, This is not the transformational journey, So again, you have to check the impulse is from where. It's from your soul or from the ego, And there are some points. I don't know. I'll just give it 2 more minutes. So the soul is using, if you want, short sentences, clear, never complicated, and it's unemotional, actually, one message. And when is the ego there, it's a lot of pros and cons, a lot of reasons. It's argumentative, it's persuasive, all this, It's also very emotional and anxious and conflicted. This is ego, yeah. And so also agitation is there, all kind of random thoughts that come and go incoherently. The soul, if you want, is leading to commitment. It's even logical to follow, and it has original solutions, surprising us always, and tells it as it is, just the simple truth. And the ego, again, is about all these contradictory voices, this or that. It's never focused on one important thing, And also it fears rejection and ridicule, It doesn't come up with something new, It's afraid to be embarrassed, let's say. Again, we don't want to kill the ego, so don't take it like that. But you need, again, to know that voice of your soul, because that's where your real aspirations are. Ego comes with the motivation, so that's also good. But again, and there are stages. We'll talk more about the stages last week. And just one more thing. So when it's something from the ego, you have to know that's a lot of rigidity there, and you resist transformation and change even, And when it's from the soul, if it's needed on the path, you may even change direction if there's a better direction. So I'm not really in that rigid state. So there are ways to identify if the call is authentic or not. Again, now I think maybe I need to wrap this up, and then next week we'll continue about this discussion of transformation and being your hero.
Okay. So yes, wrap up by Professor Goswami.
Well, thank you, Valentina. Thank you, Krishanu. So this is a good place to remind you of what you take from this very, very brief appeal to you, just explaining what the information culture does to you and what does transformation involve. Now, of course, where do you get the transformational education? This is a natural question to ask next. You feel that you have a beginning of some dissatisfaction with the information culture that you live, and therefore you came to hear us. And we have presented a picture of information that indeed something you are ready to leave behind, and that's good. What Valentina said about transformation is ultimately all have to be done. And the reward is enormous. It will improve your health, it will improve your happiness level, and overall, you will just live a creative, dynamic life of satisfaction. That's the best part of it. However, the question of where the education is available is a very difficult one. As soon as the materialists took over the worldview, at least half of the worldview, and religions were not doing very good anyway in terms of giving you a healthy worldview. And we had this beginning of the symptoms of the sickness, which is now a crisis. People have, movement of consciousness produces the remedies. So people have been giving education in the form of mainly workshops. I have given those myself. Valentina gives them too, and we still continue to have that aspect of education. But workshops It's just a weekend. Yes, you feel the enthusiasm, you feel the energies of love, and all that is true. So they do serve a purpose, but it's very temporary. It doesn't last. That high, that temporary expansion of consciousness, it just fades away. And then you are back again, and then you need another dosage of that. So you go to another workshop and you live that for a while. But after that, at some point, you must ask yourself, it's like going to a Freudian psychologist, psychoanalysis. You get something, you get coping mechanism, or a cognitive behaviorist. That's same thing. You get something, a coping mechanism, going to the psychiatrist, sitting on a couch and talking to yourself, or listening to some of their positive psychological stuff of how to gear yourself up for this and that and hone your skills and stuff like that. Yes, they are good coping mechanism, but the high that you feel, the stuff that they tell you to do, you can only do a little bit and not keep the enthusiasm. Nothing permanent happens. So this is like an allopathic cure. Indeed, it cures the symptoms for a while, but the condition returns and you have to go and again face the problem when the symptoms become aggravated. So that life becomes tiring after a while, right? And this is why we present these things, that there is a remedy. Take this thing seriously. Spiritual tradition did this and they were very serious. Unfortunately, they left too many things unanswered. So again, it was hard to keep the enthusiasm about a meditative life following the old tradition. Some people do them though. Some people have, and they have a transformed happy life. They are the founders of and upholders of civilization. Now we can do it better. We really have a quantum science which over the years, me and my collaborators have developed. This is work of 30 years of huge amount of work, creative work, insightful work, and very carefully we have laid out the beginnings of a transformative science, quantum science of health, prosperity, and happiness. And we are now ready, and we have been giving this master's and PhD program for 3 years now. We have a record. Our students are graduating successfully, and they're already using it in their practices. It works. So look at this program if you are ready. If you're not ready, then you have to continue what you're continuing. But if you are in that phase where the workshops high, you want to make permanent, and you certainly don't want to go back to that life in the base level human condition with so much negativity and just information processing and becoming dumb and dumber, then look at it seriously. It's not really hard given the science of it. This is our pride and joy. We know the science of transformation. Use it. Please. We'll be waiting for you with open arms. Look at our program. Thank you. Krishanu?
Thank you, Professor Goswami. Thank you, Valentina. Yes, you can look at the programs. In fact, not necessarily, I must add, of course, the master's and PhD program that we have, they are the best vehicles to learn transformation for good. There are also other programs, like we have certification programs. So there could be some constraint on your part where you may not be able to commit as much time and money possible on these kinds of education, particularly time commitment and the work that is involved in all that. Valentina pointed out very clearly that transformation is not easy. Even some people will peddle transformation, that we change happens in a second. Well, change happens, transformation doesn't. So given that way, we have other programs too. We have displayed our website information on your screen. It's www.amitgoswami.org. And there is an email ID, info@amitgoswami.org. If you have any queries, please get back to us. Last but not the least, People talk about weekend workshops. Weekend workshops do give you a high, but we have not only a weekend, but whole 10 days of workshop coming up in October. And that is on archetypes. And that workshop will be attended by a multinational audience, our body of students, as well as others. There will be teachers, Professor Goswami, Dr. Onisor, and others will be there to teach personally, not on a video call. And trust me, this creates an enormous exchange of energy. All those people together, energies together, it creates a different atmosphere. It's very different than being on a video call. If you want to experience that, there is an option of joining only for the workshop too. Who knows? Maybe after getting that high, you might change your mind about joining a full-time program. If you are interested in that, please write to us on that email ID info@amitgoswami.org, and we will be happy to get back to you. Thank you so much for your time and have a great weekend. Thank you.